The Western AAA gaming industry is going through it. If you're a gamer like I am, you're probably waiting for some good news only to be greeted with more bad. Digital stores are shutting down, live service games may have peaked, the industry is recording record revenue, Xbox is going through their grand reset, layoffs feel commonplace now, people are bored of games, AI has ruined NAND storage and DRAM prices, the Steam machine is a uniquely terrible value, Sony is discontinuing physical game production, and more are happening. Things here in the Western AAA world are kinda bad. So how did we get here? Can we fix this, or are we just screwed? There are several suspects and many characters in this story, but let's start with Xbox because their demise is what gave Sony the confidence to show their true selves. I know it's hard to believe if you didn't experience it, but Xbox has contributed a lot to the medium. While this legendary console was home to many beloved exclusives, games like Halo were in another tier. While games like Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, and Half-Life were common on PC, the genre struggled to find its footing on console until Bungie developed Halo. Halo fundamentally redefined shooters for consoles, and we can still feel its impact today. Microsoft would carry this momentum with their next generation console, the Xbox 360. In addition to being much stronger than the original Xbox, the 360 introduced arguably the most influential controller of all time, brought HD resolutions to consoles, practically created online gaming as we know it today, introduced voice chat, and had the red ring of death. Halo 3 and Call of Duty 4 were console sellers, and countless kids, teens, and young adults at the time enjoyed playing with their friends in the comfort of their own homes. Aside from paying for online and the red ring of death, the 360, like the original, is fondly remembered. This is where things, however, begin to fall apart for them. The Xbox One, or 720 as we called it, had an enormous amount of hype. Call of Duty was still great at the time, a new studio took over Halo, and Xbox fans were happy. All they wanted was a hardware refresh and for the red ring of death to be resolved. And what they got was a console whose initial reveal should be a strategic and marketing case study of what not to do. Don Matrick came on stage and branded the Xbox One as an extension of your TV with predatory DRM practices, a shift in focus as an entertainment machine, and a renewed focus on the Xbox Kinect. Even though it's been over a decade since this reveal occurred, I'll never forget the uproar it caused on social media. Although they walked everything back from the show and we actually barely saw any of it, Xbox is still recovering from it in 2026. This show's legacy lives on in this clip.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
PlayStation.
This was the era where PlayStation sales began to eclipse Xbox's and brand interest plummeted until Phil Spencer replaced Don Matrick. Strategically, Phil knew he needed a shakeup and implemented strategies around backwards compatibility, acquiring studios, Xbox Game Pass, and making a push towards cloud gaming. Unfortunately, all this wasn't enough as Xbox's market share continued to decline. Game Pass conditioned players to subscribe rather than buying games, which hurt studios and publishers in the long run. There weren't enough exclusives despite buying up several studios, and bringing their limited number of exclusives to PC conditioned PC players to just wait. Which brings us to today. Today, Phil Spencer has been replaced with Asha Sharma, who has been transparent about Xbox. She shared how troubled the brand is, its struggle to remain profitable, frustration with how long development cycles have been, enormous AAA budgets, and how expensive producing an Xbox is in the modern market. Her rise to power was quickly followed with rumors of Microsoft divesting Xbox, potentially sunsetting several studios that they purchased, a buy now pay later option for games and consoles, and how difficult pricing their next generation consoles will be. With Xbox's decline and Asha's endeavor to create a healthier brand, Sony's competition has all but vanished. Like the Xbox, Sony started off very strong with the PS1. Smaller budgets and shorter development times allowed for a range of diverse exclusives to be made at the time. The PS1 was a legendary console, but the PS2 was literally the PS1, but better. An enormous graphical leap, a sequel to fan-favorite PS1 games, countless original classics, a DVD player which was huge at the time, and you can see why it's often crowned as the greatest console of all time. Similar to the 360, people were ecstatic with the PS3. HD graphics, a Blu-ray player, better hardware, and free online. Everyone was on board until seeing that eye-watering $600 price tag, which comes out to about $1,050 2026 according to the BLS. While this number speaks for itself, the PS3 was troubled for most of its life. The most infamous decision Sony made with the PS3 was their cell architecture. According to developers and publishers, this architecture was unlike any they've seen before, and it took quite some time to learn. This resulted in an initial lag for third-party and first-party games on the PS3. This would also impact visuals, game performance, and was one of the reasons there weren't a ton of exclusives at launch as well. Although the online was free, it was nowhere near as robust as what Microsoft was offering on the 360. Sure, we had voice chat and messages, while the 360 had like everything else. I think the 360 also included a mic with the console, if I remember correctly, or maybe that was just Xbox 360 Elites or something. Due to these reasons and the multiplayer craze that was Halo and COD, Xbox ran away with the generation despite the PS3 finding its footing towards the end of its life cycle. Following Microsoft's disastrous announcement, Sony took notes from the last generation and offered everything Microsoft didn't: games. I hate to sum up this generation as Microsoft did everything wrong and Sony doing everything right, but that's like literally what happened. The PS4 matched online parity with the Xbox, drastically improved their controller, had tons of remasters bringing PS3 classics to the PS4, and had a myriad of exclusives starting around 2015. Nevertheless, Sony's arrogance started to show after dominating the competition. As a friendly reminder, the Xbox One was the Xbox One, and Nintendo was still in the Wii U era. Sony, for all intents and purposes, didn't have any competition and they took full advantage of it. The PS4 era is when Sony started charging for online, removed backwards compatibility, people started investing heavily in the PlayStation Store, controllers became very expensive, good luck getting a refund on the PlayStation Store, and Sony initially blocked crossplay with Fortnite and Destiny, thus bringing us into the modern day. As of writing this script in 2026, the PS5 doesn't have many exclusives. Cross-platform games that were remastered, like Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, cost $10 while Xbox did it for free. There's a much bigger focus on live service in games as a service games. Countless games have been cancelled. Bungie was acquired. PS Plus and console prices have steadily increased over time. Sony's also updated their terms of service so they can delete PlayStation accounts that have been inactive for 36 months. Stick drift on their controllers are bad. Other anti-consumer behavior is still bad. And discontinuing physical games in 2028 best sums up the PS5 era. If you've seen any of my previous discussion videos or have joined one of the streams, everyone knows about my divisive relationship with Nintendo. They're incredibly anti-consumer, and I've never seen a brand that actively hates their consumers more than they do. With that said, however, they aren't actively contributing to the problems that we see in the industry, but don't worry, I'll make my Nintendo hater manifesto one day because fuck that company. Anyways, whenever something bad happens on consoles, there's always that one person that says, just get a PC, bro. And as someone who's been gaming on PC since 2013, we aren't exactly thriving here either. PC gaming has been in a rough spot since like 2020. 2020 brought the pandemic, which led to supply chain shortages, semiconductor shortages, and Bitcoin mining created an immeasurable demand for graphics cards. When things returned to normal, we were greeted with stagnating hardware from Nvidia and AMD, shrinkflation where cards are more expensive with smaller generational leaps, the 8GB of VRAM debacle, exploding 12-volt cables, Windows 11 being Windows 11, AMD's proposed discontinuation of RDNA 2 and 3 support, AI causing RAM and storage prices to soar, $1,000 plus Steam machine, and the entry-level PC market is dying. Sure, PC may be a better long-term investment since it's decentralized, has free online, and there's no generations, but things are a far cry from 2013 when I got into it. At this point, you should be asking yourself, well, what are we doing with all this new hardware? Surely it's providing stability to the industry and reducing development time with AI, right? Since around 2020, the Western AAA gaming industry has faced a ton of volatility. Due to numerous layoffs and studio closures throughout this generation, it's clear as day that things, as they currently are far from stable. If you keep up or follow gaming news, you're probably aware of the numerous studios that have closed due to market conditions or underperforming titles. Layoffs and studio closures are obviously negative indicators of the industry's general health, but it's also experiencing brain drain as well. In macroeconomics, there's a concept called brain drain. Brain drain occurs when skilled individuals migrate from one region to others with better opportunities. Obviously, we can replace region with industry and make this metaphor make sense. Experienced directors, developers, programmers, marketers, QA leads, sound engineers, and other employees are leaving the AAA gaming industry. I'm biased and I've said this multiple times, but video games especially are a highly collaborative medium. Just because you have a vision doesn't mean you can bring it to life on your own. Everyone's important, and people leaving the industry in droves will lead to long-term ramifications. Another huge shift we've seen over the past decade is the push for live service games. I'm going to be transparent here. I don't play a ton of multiplayer games outside of fighting games nowadays. so I can't really speak much about live service or games as a service. However, I think they're fascinating from the outside looking in. First, we can't measure their success through conventional means, and by conventional, I mean game was developed for X amount of dollars and must sell Y amount to become profitable. Publishers today share quarterly or annual budgets and profitability, but with live service games, stuff just comes out and eventually shuts down. The most seemingly valuable metrics to live service games are monthly active players, battle pass purchases, and skin sales. And from what we've seen over the past 10 years, this model can work, but it's far more volatile than traditional games due to an enormous initial investment, seasonal demands, sustained source of capital, oversaturation, and live service limitations. Live service games are notoriously expensive to get into. Seasonal content forces publishers to continually invest into these games. They require a ton of time to make. There's already a ton of them in the market, and they can't make their money back in the long run. Games like Devil May Cry and Cyberpunk receive anime adaptations, prompting an increase in sales. Conversely, there are games like Demon Souls, Psychonauts, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which became cult classics, made their budget back over years, and had sequels in the long run. Sure, a live service game could receive an anime that increases its monthly active players, but Devil May Cry 5, for example, released in 2019. Other than a special edition and the Switch 2 port, Capcom hasn't made a substantial investment in the game since it was developed, and they're still profiting from it. Despite these challenges and glaring issues, they haven't stopped Sony from pursuing a live service cash cow. They've probably thrown away billions at this point in canceled live service projects, with Concord being the most famous. I guess they thought they could buy their way into the live service space with Bungie. And as the multiplayer industry has gravitated towards live service and games as a service, the industry has become far more centralized around Epic. Before getting into Unreal, I'd like to remind everyone that if you're enjoying the video, leaving a like and a subscription would go a far way in helping the channel grow. Thanks for your support, and back to the video. Whenever a new game gets announced or we see a trailer at a game show, the Unreal Engine logo feels inevitable at this point. Going strictly by the eye test, many AAA developers and publishers have abandoned their in-house engines for Unreal, and this makes sense. Having an industry standard set of tools makes training and hiring easier for companies. However, because there's always a however, should the industry take solace in one centralized engine? Competition, or lack thereof, are why PlayStation and Nvidia comfortably fuck you over. Regardless of Unreal's capabilities, Epic dictates pricing, engine direction, and availability amongst other things. They already possess a ton of leverage in the space and are positioned for even more in the future. And yes, there are companies like Capcom with their RE engine and IO Interactive with Glacier, but Epic is undeniably at the center of modern game development with how ubiquitous their engine is. I'm sure developers are divided on this direction though. On one hand, I'd imagine they're probably happy to have an engine they're familiar with. They don't need to be trained or learn the idiosyncrasies of another engine. On the flip side, learning a studio's proprietary engine provides employees with a sense of job security. If you are a hiring manager, hypothetically, would you rather train a brand new person or provide feedback to someone? Additionally, Epic takes 12% of your total revenue after reaching $1 million. If your project generates $500 million in revenue, for example, you'd owe Epic $60 million, which would fund Clair Obscur Expedition 33 6 times over. Since we're headed towards a future with Epic as the backbone of gaming, games should come out faster since everyone's experiencing the engine, right? I don't even know why I'm asking this question. In parallel with some games costing $80, development cycles have become much longer as well. While this obviously sucks for consumers, lengthier development cycles yield new creative and financial ramifications. Creatively, developers have the chance of dropping one game a generation, potentially missing a console generation entirely, and it's very difficult to build a new franchise when you drop one game every 6 years. Furthermore, a studio could pivot your favorite franchise into a new direction that you may not like. If that pivot doesn't work and the company is somehow still around, you're probably going to wait another 7 years for something that you like. And financially, this is also problematic due to an enormous initial capital investment and the difficulty of pivoting based off of market tastes. While the first is obvious, the second can't be understated, and I think it's a strategic point that a lot of us gamers forget sometimes. Let me ask you something. Can you guess which game will be popular in the next 5 to 7 years? Single-player games are usually safe, but no one could have expected MOBAs, multiplayer shooters, battle royales, MMORPGs, or extraction shooters to explode the way that they have. From pre-production to launch day, people could be tired of that genre. already found a game that they liked, and or the market could have moved on or been oversaturated. Combine everything I just said with the potential of a troubled development cycle, and you run the risk of releasing something dated or even dead on arrival. I know I already made fun of Concord in this video, but they really are just the poster boy of bad shit. Entering development in 2016, shortly after Blizzard revived the hero shooter genre, Concord released in 2024 cost an estimated $400 million and was shut down shortly after launch. And to make matters worse, the hardware needed to develop and play these games has skyrocketed in price as well. As we've discussed earlier, everything is stupid expensive now. The PS5 and Xbox Series systems are more expensive now than they were at launch. The Steam Machine was reportedly set to launch at $750 instead of $1,000 plus. PlayStation Plus and Xbox Network prices are more expensive. Some publishers are selling their games for $80. RAM prices are RAM prices. We're existing in a cost of living crisis, and Sony is killing physical disc production. The problem with writing this video is that new shit keeps happening that I want to include. Anyways, I don't need to introduce this topic because it's been everywhere. Sony will discontinue production of physical games starting January of 2028. Strategically, they want to eliminate their competition and create a centralized place to buy games. Sony wants to become the Steam of PlayStation, even though PC players have GOG, Greenman Gaming, and other methods to acquire and own their games DRM free. Shout out to GOG because I buy everything from there if I can. Beyond discontinuing the disk drive and the erosion of ownership, I think there's a broader discussion to be had around the superfluous efforts of digital ownership, but that's a video for another day. Shit sucks, man. Like, I don't know what else you want me to say. We all know that things are looking bleak, but where does the industry go from here? If I was a betting man, I think AA and indie games will thrive and surge in popularity. The AA and indie space are home to many beloved classics without invasive monetary practices. They're usually competitively priced and backed by developers who actually give a fuck about their products, and there's something really nice about supporting people that are passionate about what they do. And since these games don't have enormous marketing budgets to buy out your favorite content creators or garner traditional marketing hype, you're left with the best form of marketing: word of mouth. I said it once and I'll say it again. Great games market themselves because passionate people don't shut up about how peak their game is, and that's awesome. And don't lie to me, we've all told someone about something that they don't care about. And when it comes to live service games in the Western AAA space, they probably need the biggest overhaul. Live service games require an enormous budget, a unique idea, and timeliness, none of which, especially timeliness, are easy to come by or even plan for. As a developer, you're also tasked with sustaining players, carving a niche out of the market, creating a forever game, and need an infinite source of capital. Personally, not that my opinion means anything at all, the oversaturation of the space and the economics of these games are enormous obstacles that many developers and publishers seemingly ignore. For other huge single-player Western AAA games, budgets have outpaced inflation. Entering profitable territory is getting harder, and things are currently unsustainable. Despite the gaming sector growing year over year, largely driven by the mobile sector might I add, if this space wants to survive in a more sustainable state, budgets, sales expectations, and monthly player expectations need to be adjusted to the point where one failure doesn't mean your studio is at risk of shutting down. Record revenue tells one story while the studio closure bloodbath of 2026 tells a bleak other. And while things don't look great for the industry, I'd like to end this video on a more positive note. At the end of the day, we the consumers have all the power here. What we spend our money on, who we support, which games we play, what price we buy games for, and what we're playing informs publishers which direction to go. If you aren't happy with the direction of your platform or your favorite series, you don't have to support them. Even though things are rough, you always have options regardless of our unique set of circumstances. One of the recurring things I see online is just switch to PC, but computers are a luxury item. Components are more expensive than they've ever been, and people straight up would rather quit the medium than play on a computer. And if you're looking at supporting Xbox, you're essentially investing in a multi-trillion-dollar startup. Nevertheless, never lose sight of the fact that we hold all the power here. No one's forcing you to buy these games, upgrade to the next generation, or upgrade your components. If you're satisfied with your console, PC, and/or other hardware, just listen, man, ride it out until things get better or you feel comfortable supporting a company. These multi-billion-dollar conglomerates aren't your friends and only care about what's in your wallet. And if you aren't happy with the current trajectory of things, take care of and embrace your hardware. And never forget that we're in the 9th generation of consoles. I'm sure there's a game from the prior generations begging you to fall in love with them. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Yeah, another discussion piece. There's been a lot of news and even more has happened since I started writing this video. So yeah, just kind of wanted to bring all my thoughts together about the state of the industry. Everybody knows that the state of the industry isn't good, but a lot of these things that are happening, whether it's like direction of the industry to removal of digital rights to taking out physical media from the equation, to studios getting shut down, to bad conferences from 10 years ago, to the rise of costs of everything, to AI, to Xbox just falling apart, and how Sony and Nintendo have been able to do what they've been doing. It's all ubiquitous, and I think it's super important to tell the entire story instead of just piecing together one thing. But like all my discussions, I don't really know where this is headed. I don't really know where we're going in the industry, and I just hope that we figure out a more sustainable path, because I don't know about you guys, but it really sucks to see an industry that you love and cherish that has formed you in so many more ways than you could even think to put into words just kind of erode or fall apart. And obviously, as you know, as you guys could tell from all the videos that I make, I mostly cover a lot of games from Japan. You know, I speak the language. I love Japanese games, love Japanese media and stuff like that. But, you know, there were also some games like Ratchet & Clank and Sly Cooper that I grew up with over here. That's just, man, it's just kind of a bummer seeing everything that's going on. But yeah, no, I just wanted to do a little something different. But before we get even deeper into the outro, shout out to all the domain dwellers for supporting my creative endeavors. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming a channel member or subscribing on Twitch, where you'll receive early video access, a special Discord role, access to my scripts and outlines, emotes, and even more. Also, feel free to join the Discord, where we talk about everything from games to TV, music, anime, art. It's all there. And I stream here and on Twitch, and if you want to catch some of the old live streams, then you can find them in the past live streams playlist. So yeah, before we get out of here, so a couple of questions for you guys as always. First and foremost, how are you feeling about the current state of the industry? Are you optimistic? Do you have faith in Asha's direction? Do you think Sony's going to, you know, recalibrate their strategy for the future? Do you think it's just the silent minority? Because obviously there's a ton of data that's out there about how many people just buy digital games, myself included. Obviously, I'm a PC gamer. We don't really have a fucking choice, even though I kind of hate it, but it is what it is. Should I make a video about digital rights and why fighting for them is almost impossible? Because, well, yeah, let me know if you're interested in that video, because it's a bleak video, but advocating for digital rights, I think, is very, very, very difficult to almost impossible. But like I said, let me know if you want me to make that video. Where do you think the industry is headed? Are you tired of clocking into live service games? Like I said in the video, I know that I'm not the biggest fan of live service games, but I'm super curious how everybody's kind of feeling about them, because there is a ton of them and they take up a lot of time, and I'm obviously not the target audience for them. So yeah, what do you guys think of that? And what sort of games do you prefer playing? Are you somebody like me who really, when they were younger, played a lot of multiplayer games, and then you fell in love with single player games later on, or I guess fell back in love, but you know what I mean? You fall back in love with single player games. Are you somebody that just plays like Valorant, CS, MOBAs? Are you just constantly into those? Just, you know, look, what are your favorite types of games? If you play on PlayStation, are you planning on moving or staying with the PS6? Or, well, I guess, are you thinking of moving to the PS6 or staying on the PS5? Or are you just straight up done with Sony? And is PC even an option anymore? Like I said in the video, I know that a lot of people just straight up won't even consider PC as an option, and they have their own reasons for it, and that's cool too. But yeah, like, is that even an option if you're not happy with the current state of the multi-trillion-dollar startup known as Xbox? Or are you just going to grit your teeth and just ride it out where you are? This is a judgment-free zone, I promise. Anyways, this has been a very long outro, so I'm going to get out of here. Thanks again for watching. Feel free to join the Discord if you want to talk. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll check in with y'all in the next one. Have a good one.